In this episode, we talk about why getting started is actually the hardest part. You've got no momentum, so you've got to go out and work, find those rundown properties, get in touch with them, and really almost struggle a little bit to get the deal, but why a switch flips once you've started doing deals, and then deals come out of nowhere. Deals come from your mailman. Deals come from your guy who takes the trash out of your rundown properties once you get them under contract. Ryan Haywood, my co-host, has done almost 400 deals, and he talks about a trailer park that meets not the 1% rule, but the 2% rule, a slam dunk rental property that came from somebody he had hired previously to take out the trash. So we know you're really going to enjoy this episode. And here it starts.
The DealMachine REI podcast. Everything you need to know to get started in real estate investing.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the next episode of the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast, where our mission is to give you everything you need to know to get into real estate. I'm David Lecko. I'm one of your co-hosts, and I've got almost 2 million in rentals now, just getting ready to close on another rental property that I'm super pumped about in Indianapolis, which brings my total to 10. And then we got Ryan Haywood, who's done almost 400 deals and's got about 40 rentals in St. Joe, Missouri, which is outside of Kansas City, Missouri. And he started in 2019 with a 14-day wholesaling challenge where he didn't use any of his cash or credit and went looking for a rundown house that he could end up making $8,500 for by getting it under contract and posting it to Facebook Marketplace. Ryan, how does it feel to have achieved so much in such a short amount of time, 4 years? How's your life changed?
Well, first off, it was a 30-day wholesaling challenge.
Yeah, but you did it in 14 days.
Smashed it in 14 days.
Yes. Which is your style.
Yeah, 100% my style. Whatever the goal is, destroy the goal. But yeah, it's so crazy. And Megan and I talk about this often. Like, you'll sit and reminisce on the fact that it's been 3.5 years that we've been doing this and almost 400 transactions. I never even think of myself as someone that could be knowledgeable enough to help other people. But I'm like, well, I guess I have done a lot of deals and I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of situations. I've seen a lot of houses. We've closed a lot of houses. I have a lot of houses. Like, so much about the last 3.5 years is so different than what I even imagined. I originally thought wholesaling would just be a means to make the income that I needed to get out of my 9-to-5. But what it's become is so much more. Like, we have a real estate business. We're running a business on top of our rental properties. So yeah, there's so much that has changed in life. Obviously, like, we just had a newborn. Now he's 3.5, which is crazy. And I don't know how time goes.
So you
how
started
it goes
this
so
challenge when you had a newborn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Abel was born, and that was the last day of my W-2 world.
Yeah, that really puts it in perspective how much time you didn't have and what kind of pressure you probably were under.
I did a lot of work from the rocking chair.
What kind of work? What do you mean?
Sending postcards. I'd sit there on DealMachine and just sit there and select properties to send postcards.
How did you
answer
select
phone
the
calls
properties?
From the pictures, street pick. I mean, we drove for dollars, so we kind of knew at that time every lead that had come in was a lead that Megan and I actually added to our list. So it wasn't like I had just a million properties in there already. I don't think list engine. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, list builder.
You changed the name. List builder. That was not a thing when we first started. So it was very driven on driving for dollars.
Right.
So yeah, we'd drive for dollars, and then I would just sit there and select the properties I wanted to send postcards to, and then answer phone calls and all of those.
Yes.
At that time, it was really kind of like you send out a bunch of postcards and then just wait for the phone to ring.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the qualities of properties you looked for. So I'm guessing like anything that just looked a little bit run down, right?
Yeah. Early on, it was early on, it was like if there's boarded up windows, that was the big thing. Like boarded up windows. Look for all the boarded up windows. So we found
Okay.
all the houses in St. Joe with boarded up windows.
Okay.
Now there's a
Anything
lot
else that
less
you
of
looked for?
those. You start learning how to identify a bad roof. I mean, obviously, you see shingles falling off or a hole, then that's a problem. But you can start to pick up on other levels of distress: stuffed mailboxes, when the gas meter's missing from the property, overgrown yards. If you see a bunch of just debris and trash sitting on the porch or throughout the yard, like, to me, that's either a landlord that's not in complete control of his properties, or a person who just is in over their head with stuff and doesn't care. It's just throwing it out in the yard.
Got it. So yeah, if the gas meter's missing, if the mailbox is stuffed full, if they've got a bunch of overgrown grass, you're sending a postcard and it says, "I'm interested in purchasing your house. If you're interested, call or text me."
Yes, absolutely. Love it. Call me if you want to sell this thing.
You've done almost 400 deals, and I want to talk about the most recent one that you did, actually, because I was very fascinated by this. You did a mobile home park, is that right?
It's not a mobile home park. It used to be a mobile home park, and what happened was they sold off all the individual lots within that specific park. Well, one person bought a majority of the lots. They bought 11 of them, and they decided in recent months that they wanted to sell it. And just in happenstance, the people that they were talking to knew Heritage Home Investments, and they're like, well, it was our trash cleanup guy, the guy that goes in and hauls up all the debris in houses when we go in and get them. He calls and he's like, "Dude, I've got an opportunity. I don't know what it'll turn into, but I gave her your number. She knows that you're going to call her." So I called, and she had these 11 lots, and it's like, "I just want to sell them." And my initial reaction is like, "Okay, how much do you want for them?" I think she said like 50,000. I was like, "Sounds good. That's a deal. Let's do it." And it cash flowed. It already, like, each person is paying for the lot itself, and it's already cash flowing $1,200 a month.
Wow.
And so I'm like, this is a slam dunk at 50,000. Let's do this. And then we got in the car and we went down and drove through this part of town. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, because it was like a third world country down here. There's trash everywhere. These trailers are like, the fact that anybody's living in them, it's just a wreck. And it's right by a lake, which the lake is not in the greatest condition either. In fact, I pulled this is just too cool of a story to not tell the whole thing. So I had a house a few months ago that I found a picture that I was just excited about the picture. Okay. I'm going to get the picture. Okay. Anybody that's actually watching this can see.
Amazing.
So I found this picture here. It says Lake Contrary, St. Joseph, Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Lake Contrary is the lake that these trailer park lots are surrounded by. So it used to be like,
it looks like a 1920s like World Fair type image.
Let's see here. The year was 1973.
Oh, I was way off.
It is free admission to the park, streetcar service to the ground, ride the new figure 8 roller coaster.
Where
free
is all
moving
this stuff?
pictures. It's not there. So this place used to be like, Lake Contrary used to be like a big deal. It was like a freaking amusement park.
Yeah.
And then over the course of time, the lake dried up. They stopped like maintaining it. They stopped taking care of it. And it's just become like slummy. Like the lake had, at one point in time, the lake had like 2 or 3 feet of water.
Okay. That's really shallow.
It was just, it was really shallow. There's always dead fish. Like it really became a distressed property. Like it was really disgusting. But these 11 lots are right there on the lake. And there is some initiative that's going on with the county that they want to revitalize the lake. There's been some people that are buying property down there that are trying to bring back the glory days of Lake Contrary, because it used to be like it used to be such a big deal here. People would come from surrounding areas to spend the weekend at Lake Contrary. Now, if they come here, I don't know what they would do other than maybe get it confused with a landfill, but it's bad. So we go through there, we drive through there. I'm like, look, 50,000 is way too high. Like, we have to renegotiate this because this is going to be such a gigantic disaster. I know these people are paying you. That in and of itself is a shock because it's just bad.
Yeah.
And so
How'd they
reluctantly,
respond when you renegotiated?
she was not happy. I mean,
Yeah.
she
had it under
owned these
contract.
properties. We had it under contract. Yeah. And then I had to come back and I'm like, look, when I was just running these numbers made sense, but then I drove down there and I seen this, and it's like, it's bad. It's really bad. And I have to clean all this up.
Yes, and just in case somebody's wondering how you do this, when you have a contract, it has an inspection period, right? So that's what you used to get out of the contract. You were basically
Correct.
like, I can't close on this price. I've got to get out of the contract, but I still want the property. I will just need to do it at this price. Is kind of what happened, right?
Yeah, my goal is never to break or to back out of the contract. I always offer you're going to deal with this renegotiation stage many times in this world of real estate, because there's times you're going to go and see something and initially it seems fine, but you get into it and something can happen between now and the time that the closing happens. Anything can happen. A foundation could collapse. That's what the inspection period is for. You have an inspection period to protect you from basically getting into a situation that you don't want to be in. And so we always get very quick about go and look at the property as fast as you can. Most of the time, we know what we're getting into before we make an offer. This was one of those one-offs where it's like, yeah, the numbers make sense. I would go 50,000 on this and cash flow $1,200 a month. Then I seen it and I'm like, that $1,200 a month is great, but I cannot go to sleep at night leaving these lots looking like this.
Mm-hmm.
So and she was a little upset, but we just explained, like, look, there's so much that's going to have to be done. These got to be cleaned up. They can't be left like this. The county is all over her for the trash and debris.
Okay. Yeah. So she's feeling
now
pressure.
It becomes my problem.
What if she said no? Would you lose your security deposit? And what was the security deposit that you put down?
We did not put any kind of security deposit on this one.
Oh, okay. Typically you do. So how did you make an offer without a security deposit?
I just threw it out there. I'm like, I just threw out there 50,000. We sent a contract and we didn't even like say that we had a earnest money deposit. It was just EMD $0.
Yeah. Earnest money deposit. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So you just omitted that part of your contract, and then she didn't have a problem.
No, she didn't say one way or the other. So that was fine. But yeah, the problem with the filth becomes my issue to deal with. And so I explained to her, these properties might be worth X amount when they're cleaned up, but to get it to that point, it's going to cost this amount. So my offer price has to be reduced by that, because she was asking the, value as if they were already cleaned up and like in good shape, and they are absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
So
50,000 per lot, per place, or what was the total?
For all 11 lots, $50,000 for all 11 lots.
And then what was the rent that was coming in?
$1,200 a month.
$1,200 a month. Yeah. So the 1% rule, which is a rule for evaluating rental properties, would say that if it's $50,000, then you would want at least $500 a month in rent, right? So this far exceeded the 1% rule. It was actually 2% rule. But usually, in order to get, and in order to get something that great, it's typically going to be a lower end property, and that's what you're saying was the case here. But
yes,
I mean, you didn't own the actual structures, right? Doesn't somebody else own the actual trailers?
Yeah, the people that are renting the lots from you. So this is where this gets really awesome. There is no overhead costs.
Yeah,
There is
because
not.
you
There's
don't have to
the
replace a
property
roof. You don't
taxes are
own
like
the roof.
$11 a year. Correct. Yeah, no roof. You don't have to worry about the walls, the carpet, nothing. It's that structure is theirs. They're just renting the grass. That's all they are renting.
And then do you have to cut the grass or do they do it?
Nope, it's all on them.
Okay. Excellent. I like that a lot. And so
Yeah, there's no overhead. The overhead that is associated to it, we figured out a couple ways to. It's only $11 a year for the property taxes on this, but I did find I wouldn't call it a loophole because it was an offering for economic development that you can get some of those taxes waived if you improve the properties. So for us, and I don't know how long of a window that is that it's going to be waived, but it's going to get those property taxes are going to be waived. So I'll have no overhead cost there at all. The only cost I'm in is the purchase price.
this seems like a dream.
So
Who's going to clean up the trash?
So we've got the guy that actually gave us the lead is going to be the one that's going and cleaning up the units. And
this was
I'm
like a
trying
guy-
to work.
So every time you buy like a rundown house and you're going to do work on it, you actually hire a guy to take all the trash out, like the old carpet, the old building materials, the old cabinets. So this was your guy, your trash guy.
This is my guy, the hauling guy. That's
put
his
it in
name,
the dumpster.
hauling guy.
Haul it away.
Yep.
So this landlord who owned all the lots, typically she was using this hauling guy too, right?
I'd highly doubt it. She was hauling.
How did he
nothing
know
off.
about it? How did he end
So
up
I think
knowing
he
about
was
it?
down there cleaning something from a storm, like a tree had fallen from a storm, and in fact, the tree is still to this day laying on the trailer, but they had to cut it and get it out of the road. So he was doing that. And she had just mentioned to him, I'd want to sell these things. And he's like, I actually know a guy that might buy them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are
that's one
also,
thing I've noticed is like when I'm using any type of construction contractor, they're typically doing work for other investors too. And so it's just awesome when they can bring you a deal like that.
The way the connections
they
come
have
together.
a good network. Right.
Yeah. Dude, you want to know another? This is kind of getting away from the trailers, but last week, my old mailman called. He found my postcard. He was delivering my postcard. He sees our picture on it. And he's like, oh, that's Ryan and Megan. And he calls and he's like, hey, I've been delivering this postcard. This person doesn't live there anymore. Can I give you their new address? I'm like, yeah, that would be amazing. But then he went on to tell me like 7 more leads. He's like, I know this property, this person's passed away. I know this one, the daughter is taking over I'm like, you are a wealth of knowledge right here, man.
Yeah.
Just happened to see he was delivering my postcard, got the number off my postcard, and called me.
Yep. I know it's really what I'm taking away from this is like it's reminding me of how difficult it is to get started. But once, just like a big wheel, once you've got that momentum going, it kind of keeps spinning on its own when people hear about you and that you meet them and they want to give you more leads. And where, in the beginning, nobody knows who you are. You've got to go out there, drive for dollars. You've got to go look for the rundown houses, send marketing. But now what you're telling me is quite a few leads come from people in your community.
Well, what we found interesting, one of the processes or one of the steps in the 30-day wholesaling challenge that I did in 14 was to tell people what you are doing. Tell people you're looking for distressed properties. Talk to your network, talk to your friends, talk to your family, actually talk to people and tell them what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so much stuff comes out from having those conversations with people. They may know, oh, well, I've got a neighbor down the street that's got this house they want to get rid of. Like, you never know what you're going to run into. Those, or even having those conversations might lead to, well, I know a guy that's looking for a property he wants to flip. Mm-hmm. There's a potential buyer right there. It's literally just having a conversation. And it's such an undervalued piece of the beginning stage. People just want to think about generating leads and finding buyers. well, you need to tell people what you're doing.
Right.
And don't have like a scarcity mindset. Well, if I tell them what I'm doing, then they're going to start doing it too. And then I'm going to run out. No, don't think like that. Like I
Totally.
have had that when we first started, like that. I don't know what you call that, scarcity mindset. We had that. I was like, I'm nervous about telling people because I don't want to lose this momentum by giving my secrets away. Man, you are never going to feel that. If you are hustling and you are doing your part in finding deals and telling people what you are doing and networking, you are going to be just fine.
Right.
And in fact, you'll probably do better the more people you tell.
For sure. Yep. I think that's really solid advice. And also it just rings true to the stories you're telling today. Now, were there any other recent deals? I know we've done a few episodes where we didn't get to catch up because we had a guest, and I thought this went really well. But one thing I missed was getting to hear updates from you. So besides the trailer park, what else have you been up to?
We have, there was a January, February kind of slow months for us. But we stayed true to our plan of consistent marketing, sending postcards, adding leads, cold calling, doing all of our things. And we're finally out of that, I would call the valley of death. We're out of that. We've closed, I believe, 5 transactions last month, and we're on pace to do 8 this upcoming month. So
amazing.
Things are back on track. Things are getting better. Our construction crew we had 10 active projects. We have 7 contractors. When you have 10 projects, that means there are a few people that are doing more than one job, which becomes a major setback because it slows progress down on everything. So we found a way to get 3 of those projects done. So we're back down to our sweet spot of 7 active projects. We've got 7 contractors, which that is like our business model is we sell to people that don't have a contractor available. And then we provide the contractor service for them. So we're selling the property to them, but also the solution to get it fixed up. Because a lot of people that we're working with are out of state. They don't have their brother and sister or a crew that they use all the time to fix these things up. So they have to depend on somebody else.
Right.
And so that became our business model out of necessity. Really, we were running out of people to sell stuff to. So it was
yes, I remember that. You guys were
this.
selling properties and they weren't getting fixed up, right? So you guys weren't doing the good in your community that you really wanted to do. And you realized they weren't getting fixed up because these people didn't have contractor crews that they knew about. So then you offered it as a service, right? So you find the contractor crew and you manage the rehab after the investor buys the property from you.
Yep.
How many of your cash buyers take you up on that and use your construction?
Right now, all of them.
Got it.
Like every one of our buyers is using us to fix the properties, which honestly, you can monetize that really. You can get more out of a deal. If you think about it, if you're just wholesaling the deal, you get the assignment fee. If you wholesale the deal and fix the deal, that renovation budget also comes to you. Now, I know you have people to pay, but you still make profit on those activities. So you went from, and what's great, like I have my 2 brothers that work for us in our rehab crew. So on a deal, we'll make our $5,000 to $10,000 assignment. And then on a renovation, you can bank on about 25%, or really 10% of the total cost is what I would say is after profit.
Okay.
But I'm also paying my 2 brothers a full-time wage to fix these houses. So they are getting fed a job, and then we're making a 10% profit on the total cost of the job. So add that. Let's say I made $10,000 on the assignment fee, and let's say the renovation is going to cost $40,000. I just made 14 in total by offering that solution.
10. Correct.
So
that makes a lot of sense. I'm really glad you broke that down. Now, $10,000 assignment fee. How much is this house worth in perfect condition when it's all fixed up, would you say?
Oh man, they're all different. So the one that they're working on now, I think is like a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. ARV is probably 125. We sold it for 40.
Yeah.
And I think they'll all be in at like 80,000 in total.
And they'll have a $120,000 house. That's beautiful.
Correct. Yep.
And so basically your assignment fee is like 8-9% of the total ARV price.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. It'd be nice if we could get it at 10%, but I'm pretty darn happy with where we're sitting.
Right. So for those listening that are in a higher price market, it may be harder for you to find a deal, but you can actually make a much bigger assignment fee if you're curious.
Correct.
So whereas, in the Midwest, I don't know, Ryan a lot of our Midwest customers, they have to find like 300 rundown houses, mail them 6 times each to get a deal. In a market like Phoenix, that number has to go like above 1,000. They've got to find 1,000 rundown houses, send out mail 6 times each. So they spend more time and money on marketing, but they get a bigger assignment fee. Like 40,000 would probably be an average in Phoenix, but they've put in more work to get that. So that's how I've seen these different markets play out. And if you're listening, that's how you would set your goals to make sure you're giving it a full test and trying wholesaling.
Yeah. And something else to remember if you're in a market like mine, which is a population around 76,000, 3.5 years, you've touched a lot of stuff. So the mailing strategies are not the same as they were in the very beginning. I could mail 1 postcard to somebody and I'd get a call. I could send 250 postcards out and get 5 deals out of that. Now it's almost double or triple that, but we're still generating leads. We still drive for dollars because there's new houses that come up in distressed, and just looking for new ways. And obviously connections lead to a lot of extra deals. So, you'll have friends and family that bring a deal to you. You have your hauling guy bring a deal to you. You have a mailman bring a deal to you. Even title companies have brought deals to us. Like, hey, there's a person that we know that wants to sell this house. Like,
yeah,
sweet, let's do it.
That's what I mean by the inertia is going. It's in your favor once you've gotten started.
Yeah, when people know what you're doing and you're actually making impact, things will start. That impact that you're making starts to kind of form around you. It's like, energy that just starts building upon whatever success you're putting into something, or whatever energy you're putting into something. It starts building its own energy, and then it becomes an actual thing. So,
yep. Well,
I think
Ryan,
Megan said once.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Where your attention flows, your energy flows, or I don't know what she said. I'll have to look it up. Something to that extent.
It sounded like where your attention goes, your energy flows, which makes sense. There it is. And it was really great hearing these updates from you. A couple takeaways that I had just from listening to what happened is you've got to tell people what you're doing. That could be a social media post. It could be a dinner, conversation, and it could definitely be with a mailman.
Yep.
Another thing was how you renegotiated. I was actually a little blown away that you gave an offer without an earnest money deposit, but totally makes sense. They probably didn't even notice you omitted it from the contract. But even still, there's an inspection period in your contract. So if something comes up, like the property's in much worse condition than you anticipated, you can get out of the contract and get your earnest money back.
Yep.
And finally, I just love how you tackled this. This is the first time you've ever done any type of trailer park or mobile home park. And I thought that the economics of that deal were pretty amazing, since you didn't have to repair roofs. They're just renting the lot. So you get the advantages of rents with very minimal overhead and expenses. And so at the 2% rule, the biggest thing is you just pre-qualify the people who are getting in there, moving their trailers in there. And you should be really, really enjoying the rewards from that investment.
I hope for years to come.
Yes. Any other final advice you'd like to give before we sign off today?
I think that's probably a good enough amount of knowledge for today. There's so much more that I could talk about on little things that come up in process, but I think that we've set it up. Like, not to be rude, but you've gotten enough out of this, okay?
That's right. You guys got so much out of this. You owe us. please.
You
This
owe
is
us
a
to
free
come back and
podcast.
listen to the next episode.
It's not a free podcast like every other podcast. We would love for you guys to give us a review if you're listening, just so that we can actually get this podcast in front of more listeners and help them enjoy the benefits of real estate investing. If you've gotten anything out of this, 1-star review, 5-star review, either way, we really appreciate hearing from you. And we'll see you on the next episode. Be sure to follow Ryan at Heritage Home Investments on Instagram and me, D. Lecco, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Deal Machine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.